Thinking about what the Chinese are doing, I know not everybody convinced that the whole suite of policy measures is going to be enough to turn things around in China. Maybe some of the geopolitics gets in the way. I know the Aramco CEO is quite positive, though. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, so interesting comments from the Aramco managers talking about the prospects for China's economy coming back and the opportunity for there to be getting more involved there. I think what's really interesting is you can think about this in two kind of ways. One, it's a positive comment on the economy. Also, and in the context of the BRICS meetings coming up this week, it's a comment on the sort of relationship that's being built between Saudi Arabia and China. China's really doing everything it can, I think, to build this relationship, to cozy up a little bit more to the Gulf nations, the Middle East nations, the Global South, the BRICS nations in general. And it's reciprocal as well. You know, we've seen meetings this year between Saudis and China and deals done both ways as well. Flows of cash. We've seen ETFs set up to allow for stock investments as well. So I think that you can see it not only as a positive endorsement of the economy, but also in the context of these meetings coming up, more confidence in that relationship, which is sort of diversifying a little bit away from the US and away from the US dollar as well.
Hold your nose by the Mag 7. Carson Block talking to Haslinder a little bit earlier on. He's definitely not convinced about the longevity of the China trade, Paul.
No, absolutely. And if you look at markets today, you know, it's a little bit wishy-washy again. You know, what we have seen is some diversification between onshore and offshore markets. Onshore behaving better because we have this buybacks news coming through. So a lot of companies announcing buybacks today and getting some funding for that. On the other hand, you know, Hong Kong really not performing particularly strongly. We just need that continuing confidence of more and more stimulus announcements to come through in order to prop up the market. And there's still a lot of international investors that would prefer to stay away.
Paul, in our last minute here, talk to us about what's going on in gold. We kind of rack our brains in terms of what's driving that move. What is it in your view?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's really interesting is you can tie it back to this big BRICS conversation. In some ways, there's a lot of emerging market nations that seem to be stockpiling gold, building it up in their strategic reserves. And so people are looking for those kind of diversification plays away from you know, the US dollar, away from traditional currencies in general. We're also seeing Bitcoin perform well for similar sorts of reasons. And so I think that that is also playing into it. People have been talking a lot about deficits and debt loads and that kind of thing, particularly over this weekend. There's that mistrust in the financial system in general. So that's one thing, I think, which is adding to the sort of demand for precious metals and alternatives to currency at the moment. On the top of that, you've got the election risk, you've got plenty of Middle East risk as well, so other reasons for people to want to buy it, and more practical things like Indian buying for jewelry and such like. So plenty of reasons to like those precious metals at the moment.